Welcome everyone to today's webinar. We've been to bring you a mix of different types of topics, ones that are relevant to today's businesses. And today I'm excited to have with us a guest speaker, Ben Nels from Miller Insurance Group. He's here with us to talk about cybersecurity insurance. Cybersecurity insurance is an important part of business insurance coverage these days. And it's also a quickly changing insurance product. So it's important as business owners and businesses to understand our risk, coverage options, and exposures that we have. Our goal for the webinar today is to get you some information about cyber risk, cybersecurity insurance options, and really all this with the intention so that you can take this information back to your insurance agent, review your coverages, understand a little more about what you have and what you need. So if you aren't familiar with Miller Insurance Group, they have offices in Bremen, Culver, and in Indianapolis, and been providing business and personal insurance, and their team of licensed insurance agents have over 100 years of combined experience. So with that, Ben, tell us about cybersecurity insurance.
Thanks, John. Appreciate you having me on today. So today, we're going to talk about cyber risk, and your data is under attack if you didn't know that already. Obviously, you see in the news with things like the Equifax breach, Target, all those in the past. We know that people want our data so that they can use that to gain advantage for themselves. So when we say what is data and cyber risk, the bottom line is every single business that uses data, that interacts with computers, that stores data has a risk. Computer systems and networks can be attacked, they can be damaged, they can be destroyed, and there presents inherent risks when we use computer systems to store that data. The two goals of today's webinar from my end is that first, we develop an awareness. So number one, we develop an awareness of what are risks that are out there. What are the risks that pertain to our business? And then secondly, as John mentioned, make sure that we have adequate coverage, we have the right coverages and the right limit. So the first thing anyone ever tells me when I tell them about cyber insurance, their reasons for needing it, it says, we don't sell anything online. And while maybe you don't sell anything online, I hope through today's webinar, you will realize that you do still have a risk. And also the second thing that people say is that it only happens to big companies, the Targets of the world. And hopefully today, again, I can at least show you that there is risks with small businesses as well. So to kick it off, Nationwide Insurance did a survey of 1,069 businesses with 1 to 299 employees. So very small businesses, and 58% of them reported having a cyber attack within the last year. Now, I was kind of surprised by that number, but when it comes to computer viruses, phishing, Trojan horse, hacking, data breaches, I mean, they add up. The bottom line is if a predator can get any information from you that they can use for their advantage, they're going to do it. So going along with that, in their survey, they found 20% of cyber attack victims spent at least $50,000 to clean up the attack. Now, some of that was paid out in expenses, damages, fines, as we'll see, notification to the affected parties, maybe it's credit monitoring. So along with that $50,000, they required longer than 6 months to require. So the question for you is, what would $50,000 do to your cash flow in your business? How would it affect you month to month? And then how would it affect you over a long term of 6 months, year? Say you have to monitor somebody, their credit for up to a year. How is that going to affect your business? And then lastly, there's 7% of people spent $100,000 or more. Data that has come out shows that one piece of data, one record that has been stolen or breached will cost $250. So a good way to look at that is, okay, for our business, we have 4,000 clients and we have information on all of them. If our systems were to be breached, we would take 4,000 clients times $250 a pop to clean up that mess. And that comes out to $1 million for us. So if you kind of do the math on that, $250 per record that is lost, stolen, destroyed. So next, I want to just highlight some of the risks here. Obviously, these things are going to apply to lots of you guys. Opening your minds to the different areas that there is risk. Laptops. How many of you have laptops? How many of your employees maybe go to a coffee shop? They log onto the Wi-Fi, answer a few emails, maybe log into the external server from the coffee shop Wi-Fi. Next thing, smartphones. Of course, we all have smartphones. We probably all answer email on our smartphones. And some of us have capabilities of logging into our software systems. And we do this over Wi-Fi. We do this at a friend's house. We do this at a neighbor's house. We never know what kind of attacks are coming on the smartphones. And this could come from even the different applications we use, whether it be Facebook, it could be games, any of those things. People could access our data from those. Next, work from home. A lot of companies are doing this. They are allowing their employees to work from home. Do you allow employees to work from home? And what kind of safeguards have you set up to protect their computers when they are away from your premise? The next one, this is where I get a lot of pushback as well, is payment processing. Now, many of you might be a retail business and you have people who swipe cards and pay for different things through a payment processing system. And the pushback we always see here is, well, I mean, I'm not I don't own the payment processor. Someone else owns that and we rent it from them or whatever. Wouldn't they be held liable because we don't store their data? Well, one area where we see claims arise is through what's called skimming. And many of you have heard of that, where someone puts something on your payment processing device that is skimming all of the information of everyone who swipes. You would be held negligent for that because you allowed a skimmer to be placed on there. And then on top of that, there would be fines from the payment card industry. Next one's email. We all are getting emails every single day. We all get the spam emails, the Nigerian prince emails, if you will. That goes right along with phishing. We get someone that is impersonating. They're trying to act like they're someone else to extract data, information from us. We get phishing phone calls, all sorts of stuff. Maybe you have proprietary info or software. So maybe you've developed a product that you use internally and it creates an edge in the marketplace for you. One thing I used to work in my previous career at a steel company, and we had different applications on our systems that were proprietary, that calculated margins, that calculated cost of goods. And if those things were to get out into the industry, we would have been at a severe disadvantage because it took away that slight edge we had. Sensitive info, obviously, if you're in healthcare or even any business where you collect date of birth, driver's license numbers, social security numbers, there's lots of sensitive info floating around out there. And then this last one I throw up there is another one that we don't always think of, and that's a disgruntled employee. If you have an employee that you need to terminate and they have access to your system, what happens if they try to do some damage to your internal software systems on their way out? Do you have preventions in place? Do you have safeguards in place to prevent that? So those are just a few areas where maybe you haven't thought about, but maybe do need to think about that you have out there as far as risk goes. So when it comes to claims and it comes to payouts and it comes to what's going to happen in the case of a breach, there's two areas we look at. And the first area is expenses. There are state, federal laws that when you have certain data breaches, you are required by law to notify the affected parties. Now, notification, that's going to take some dollars. I mean, mail can be expensive when it comes to printing, stuffing envelopes, postage. When you talk about, hey, we have 4,000, 10,000, 20,000 affected people, millions in the Equifax, the notification process is going to be very expensive. There's going to be expenses kind of on the card skimming for payment card industry fines. Anything having to do with payments on your website or payments at a local payment processor at your building, you could be subject to fines from the payment card industry. And then recovery of data. If you have to pay an extraordinary amount of money for someone to come in, investigate, recover that data, there's going to be massive expenses with that. The second side is the damages. Now, these are the ones that are going to be hard to quantify. If you were to steal someone's identity or someone's identity were to be stolen because of a breach in your system, it's hard to put a dollar amount on what that could be. Someone who had good credit and now their credit's destroyed, they were planning to buy a house. I mean, the sky's the limit on what someone might try to put as far as damages against you. Lost info or loss of trade secrets, kind of in my example there with the steel business. If we were to lose that information, that could be devastating to our business. I mean, millions of dollars a year that we saved because of our process. So there's expenses that go along with things, and then there's also the damages that we're going to pay out to the affected parties. So kind of fun always then to throw out some claim examples. So claim example number one here is an HR recruiter for healthcare organization accidentally attached the wrong file when sending an email to 4 job applicants. The file included HR demographic data consisting of 43,000 former employee names, addresses, and social security numbers. So obviously you can do the math on the side there. There's two things that came into play here was the privacy liability, which is the mismanagement of personal info, the expenses to defend, the settlement claims for identity stolen, and then you have the response expenses. So even if there was no damages, no one's identity was stolen, you're still going to have $31,000 in fees just to notify, just to give theft monitoring services, credit monitoring, mailing out to the affected parties, consulting your legal team. Whether there's damages or not, just the notification process shows that expenses can get out of hand quick. A second example would be kind of what we talked about, the disgruntled employee. A rogue employee stole a donor's credit card information from a nonprofit that resulted in a forensics investigation, a lawsuit, and a payment card industry fine. So again, here we talk about, okay, this employee, as a business owner, he went rogue, committed a crime. Yes, that is true. But at the same time, you are going to be fined by the payment card industry. You are going to be the one that has to notify the company that he stole the money from. You are going to be the one held on the hook for the funds. Now, you may be able to pursue him at a later date, but the bottom line is, if you have people working for you, they can contribute to a cyber incident. Then a third example is phishing. Now, we all have heard of this. We've seen it in the news. And I provided just an example here of a way this happens. And I created an email that looks like it is from my boss. So it says from Greg Miller, and it says greg@millerinsurancegroup.com. Ben, please send payment for this marketing materials. Pay here. And I click a link. Well, what you might be able to tell there, as I circle with the red, is that I changed one of the L's to an I. So simple as something changing an L to a capital I, it looks like it's from my boss. So I click the link, put in my credit card info, pay the marketing material bill, and $2,000 is poof, gone out the drain. And we're seeing this a lot. We just, in our office last week, had an example where someone was doing construction on their building, and the construction company sent them invoices over email and said, hey, here is the invoices, please pay them via automatic withdrawal from your account. The person gave the information, the amount was withdrawn. 2 weeks later, the construction company sent invoices, and the person the person that having construction done realized that they were scammed from the beginning. So what had happened in this scenario is that the construction company was hacked. They were generating fake invoices to all of the clients. The clients were paying for it to this fraudulent impersonator. So this is real world stuff. This is happening. People are losing money. That specific instance, they had paid $8,000 to a fraudulent impersonator. So those are just a few ways that are real life claim examples. So when we talk about coverages, there's tons and tons and tons of stuff out there. There's tons of coverages out there. There's tons of endorsements. There's separate policies. But there's a few things we want to talk about. The first part is third-party coverages. Third-party coverages are going to pay others damages and expenses when the policyholder is liable. And that's going to be content liability. Did you put something false on their website? Privacy liability. Did you fail to secure their private info? Security breach liability. Was your system hacked and data was lost? Okay, these are going to pay third-party damages. They're going to pay out to another person because of your failure to secure their data or incorrect data. Secondly, we have first-party coverage. Now, this is going to pay you as the insured, okay? You're the policyholder. There are going to be security breach expenses. As we kind of talked about, the expenses to notify people are through the roof. Business income. Is your business going to be affected? Are you going to have to shut down your business for a few days, weeks, months? And how are you going to pay rent? How are you going to pay the utility bill? Extortion, threat, or ransom payment. When you receive, someone's hacked, as that picture says, you've been hacked. What are they going to be requiring? Are they requiring payment? Are they going to be requiring Bitcoin? We see that a lot. What kind of payment are they going to be requiring? Are you going to be able to handle the communication with that? When we have an insurance policy with those type of coverages, the insurance company has experts that can help you navigate that, and then also require the funds if necessary. Public relations expense. What kind of PR hit are you going to have? The extra expenses involved with that. What's it going to cost to replace or restore the lost data? And then lastly, that fraudulent impersonation. Right now, many cyber policies, even a cyber policy, do not include the fraudulent impersonation. And what that means is they're not going to include coverage if one of your employees willingly sends money to someone. Now, if someone hacks you and takes your money, there's coverage. But right now, a lot of policies, if you willingly, mistakenly send money to someone, there's not coverage unless you have specific endorsements on your policy, specific coverages. So that is something that you got to look at your policy. You need to talk to your insurance agent and make sure that that's on there. That was a flyby over. I mean, there's a lot of data there. There's so much out there. What I want you guys to take away from today is this. Number one, awareness. Know your risk and exposure. Sit down with your team and list out every possible point of exposure. Kind of that list back a few slides ago where I listed out laptop, cell phone. So in your business, think about how you do business every day, how you're interacting with the internet, how you're interacting with computers. Think about where are our risk points. What would be devastating to our business if we lost it? What kind of info about our business, if we lost it, would be devastating? And come up with a list. Then from that list of risks, exposures, now you can start protecting it. And obviously, John and Blue Star, they're going to talk about ways you can protect it on the front end, but we always want to have adequate coverage because there is going to come a time where something happens. And no matter how much training we do, no matter how much firewalls we have set up, no matter how much antivirus, I mean, how many of you guys, every time the antivirus pops up, I say, wait to refresh or wait to upload the latest version. So we need to have adequate protection. Talk to your insurance agent. Make sure you have the correct coverages, number one, and also the correct limits. As I kind of said, we have 4,000 clients at $250 a pop. That's going to add up to, millions of dollars. So do you have the adequate limits on your coverage? As I said, awareness, know your risks, and then adequately protect those risks. And I think now John's going to talk a little bit about how do we protect ourselves on the front end.
Yeah, thank you, Ben. This has been really good. Just to highlight, jump into kind of the front end and the technical side. And I just want to go over that real briefly. But first, for example, with Ben's first claim example, the one with the HR recruiter, that's not something that a technical solution is going to solve because accidentally sending out data that they should not have sent out. So with all those things, you still have that human error in component of it. So, which is why I have that on the cybersecurity as one of the 5 key components for it. So really with the other 4 are more on the technical side. So the first of those is implementing multi-layered malware protection. So Ben talked about antivirus software, and that's really good, and that's a good starting point. But these days, just having antivirus running on workstations isn't really enough anymore. You really always have a multi-layered approach. Things such as secure internet gateway, like Cisco Umbrella, that will block access to known malicious websites. Anti-malware protection on firewalls that will actually block access to the network so things don't get in the first place. Plus anti-malware software that's running on every server and workstation. And then email filtering to help secure inboxes from spam and malware to reduce the number of spam and malware emails that come in. Second, everyone's IT providers should have a strong strategy for continually patching servers, workstations, applications, and even firewall. Everything has software on it these days. Third, providing a cybersecurity awareness training to your staff. So things like Ben pointed out there in that email, looking what things you should look at to see if something could possibly be a phishing attack, because even if you do have all of the pieces in place for the email filter, everything's patched, multi-layer malware protection, some of those emails will still always get through. Ones that seem legitimate, the ones that are going to ask you for entering your passwords, wiring money, things like the ACH transaction, that the real world case from one of Ben's clients that had one of was hacked and caused the issue. So that's why the effective security awareness training is really important. And fourth, and the last one on the front end, the technical side, is having good backups. And this one's really important for anytime you have a malware incident or any type of cybersecurity or natural disaster, really to make sure there's a good copy of data that can be restored, so that if something does get corrupt or locked or destroyed, either by a malicious employee or a third-party actor, So that's critical. Like I said, I didn't want to talk too long about all of that because mostly this webinar is about the cyber insurance, but kind of wanted to tie it all in from a technology standpoint. So that's a brief overview of the technical requirements for staying secure. So if you want more information though on the security side, the technical side, we have several other educational webinars and videos out on the media center section of our website. You can go check those out. Also, talk with your current IT vendor. Make sure that you're covered from a security standpoint. Make sure they have a good plan in place for how they're testing backups, for how they're installing patches, that they have a good patch cycle. It's not just for the workstations, but it's other applications like Adobe and Java, malware protection for you, not just antivirus on your PC, but they're blocking things at the firewall, that they have a good spam and malware filter on the email, those types of things. And also for the insurance side, like Ben said, really want to have you take this information agent, talk through with them what coverages you have. The example that Ben gave about the accidental sending of information. We've had several clients that have had these types of attacks. Some that have been successful and have transferred tens of thousands of dollars. Some that have been caught, but it's real and it's a problem. So, and like Ben said, some people have been surprised to realize that those types of things weren't covered. So good to check on those ahead of time. And really, if your current insurance agent doesn't really provide or understand these cyber risks, or you're asking questions and they're not confident in their answers, and are always changing, always evolving, the ways the bad guys are trying to get in is constantly changing and constantly evolving. So it's a lot to stay up on. So if your agent isn't that, Ben and Miller Insurance, they're a good group. Again, this is an advertisement for them, but if you don't have what you need, they are a good option. And also then, if you're looking for a new IT vendor, give us a call. We happy to help walk through these things. This is the type of thing we do every day for our clients. With that concludes our webinar.